Hey guys, Jengar here. Welcome to today's realistic review in which we are taking a look at the F3D-1 sitting at 7.0 battle rating. It is almost Christmas, by the way, Christmas Eve tonight. I wish you all a very nice evening with your family and friends and hope you'll have some time in the meantime to watch this video. As I was flying this thing last week or the week before that, I don't remember exactly, and I had some very fascinating matches, which showcases that patient flying is always very important in these early jets, and you can have great results in planes that are alright but nothing spectacular. At 7.0 this plane runs with a air start, and a pretty good air start. It's not one of the lowest, so it's a good air start, and it does need it because it doesn't have the greatest performance. It has a good air brake, no afterburner, so no web, and it does have two pilots, so it adds a little bit to the survivability of the plane, and it does have a radar. For the rest, it is very sturdily built, so it's a solid plane. It can take quite a bit of damage and deal with that, but all in all, when it comes to performance, it also has 420mm, by the way, so good firepower. But it's a joyful little plane that is not really great at boom and zooming. It doesn't have the highest top speed in a dive. It is not the most maneuverable plane, but it's still good. For some reason, it's still good. It still can do a lot of great work. It's not bad at anything. I guess you could describe it as an early jet that is a little bit of a jack of all trades with no shiny size to it, in which it really excels, but does everything reasonably well. You know, nothing very bad. Although, you know, you could say it's not very maneuverable, but it's not the worst. And in some situations, some speeds, it does roll quite nicely. The compression, for example, in a dive, when it comes to roll rate, only kicks in fairly late, so it's decent there. So yeah, man, all in all, it's a very enjoyable plane to fly, actually, and with a couple of partners in there, you can have a great result. I was just with JM in this match, and we had a great match in this first match, but you'll see that. Anyway, the maximum speed in this plane at sea level is 840 kilometers an hour. At 4,500 meters, this is 670. And at 4,500 meters, she can take you to 595. Now, as you can see, or maybe you can't see it in what, but I reviewed the F84B the other day, and before that the F80A5. This one is the slowest of all these three planes, and it's definitely not one of the faster planes. Actually, it's more towards the bottom of planes at this battle rating. When it comes to pure speed, it's a little bit bulky, there's quite a little bit of drag in there, so the plane, it's not fast. Top speed in a dive also correlates with this, 886 kilometers an hour before she redlines, and 960 before she rips apart. Now that is a good 100 kilometers an hour less than the F84, and it's also less than the A5, so yeah, not great when it comes to diving speed. It does have a great air brake though, so it's good at defensive flying when it comes to that, and the roll rate, and especially in the lower ends of the dive, the sustained roll rate is quite good, and you will be able to outroll people. There's enough elevator there to make good maneuvers, so I quite like that part of it, and of course the firepower is in there as well. There is some control stiffening, but it starts late, as I said. 750 kilometers an hour before you really start to notice some compression in that roll rate, and 850 after that when it really becomes worse. And but that's already close to the red line when you want to start to think about how long you want to continue to dive. Actually, stall speed in the plane, it lies pretty high at around 260. Which is, I guess it correlates with the heaviness of the plane, with the sturdiness of it. Firepower in the plane is great. You have 4 20mm M3 cannons with 200 rounds in them, which is very good firepower in the ammo load. You can equip some bombs, 200, sorry, not 200, 2 times 500 pounds, 2 times 1,000 pounds, and 2 times 2,000 pounds, with 2 Tiny Tims also being an option there. So you can definitely take this plane into close air support and do some ground pounding in it. You can take it into tanks. I think it would be quite interesting there, as it is as it is quite sturdy, so it can take a hit or two from the AAs. Performance wise, she is alright, average. Acceleration in a straight line is no more than decent in a dive as well. Energy retention, I would say also decent. You don't get exceptional performance from this plane when it comes to that. It doesn't hold its speed super well in the vertical, does bleed a little bit of speed there in the maneuvers, but it does have 2 engines, and that is nice to have. The climb rate is average to decent. Turn time below average, average with flaps, which flaps will rip off at around 500 kilometers an hour. You have an average roll rate, and within the later dive it becomes decent. So it improves as you as other people you know, decrease in their roll rate, you increase at the later ends of the dive, which is good in jets because often you're quite fast. But yeah, and the roll rate does help in the maneuvering fights, gives you a chance. Overheating in the plane is below average. It is bad. It overheats at 100%, and you get into the amber quite quickly. You do have to cool off regularly after you reach amber for the first time, but it does cool off quickly, so it's not too much of a problem. It does require some management though. Durability in the plane is very good, very good. It takes damage well, and 2 engines and 2 pilots will give you a lot of survivability in there, and you will be able often to take the plane back home. Repair cost, as I said, for the F-84 as well, it is average for the Americans, but it is below average for compared to other nations. For some reason the 7.0 planes of the Americans are below the par when you look at other nations' 7.0 planes. Maybe it's because of the average performance of the American 7.0s, but that is the case. The RP research points is 396% with a 1.8 for a multiplier, and that is a little better than the F-84, which was even below the American average when it comes to research points. And this one has the same Silver Lion reward as the other two, 375% modifier with a 2.5 multiplier. Now both of these, as I said, is below average because the Americans somehow have less rewards in the 7.0 range than other nations. So what you want to do in this plane with your air start and your average climbing, with the air start it is actually slightly above average, you could say. You're basically set up in this plane for boom and running or close air support. You can dive from your air start and get some ground targets and get the hell out, and then do whatever you want on your second run. Either you go ground pounding again or both, or go after aircraft at that point and ditch the bombs. But it is also ideally suited to climb just from the start and go boom and running, which is good in this plane. Boom and zooming not so much, because you want to take into account that this plane doesn't zoom climb too greatly. But yeah, at boom and running, keeping your speed and being patient in this plane is very good. And here you have an example of the sturdiness of the plane. It can take a shit ton of damage and still be flight capable. So yeah, that really surprised me, and it's one of the major strengths of this plane, the sturdiness the plane has and the firepower. With that roll rate, especially towards the end of the dive, it's ideal in diving encounters where somebody dives away and you're after them, or somebody is after you and you have to go into the defensive first, which is something that you were probably outclassed initially, because also the initial acceleration of this plane isn't great, but after a while it starts to turn on, and then when compression starts to kick in the roll rate of the planes that you're facing, your roll rate becomes better for a while, and then at 750 only you get your first compression kick. So all in all, that is good to have, because it makes you very survivable. And this is one of those planes that is, you could call it a brawler, where you just go in and you take damage and you survive and you get a couple of kills, you go back to the airfield, you get a second run after the repair, and you're just kicking it that way. Because when everything is said and done, it's not a fast plane, it doesn't hold its energy as well as other planes, and you just gotta be a whole lot more careful when it comes to that. Speed management and positioning is something that is very important, and if you need to learn more about it, make sure to check my tutorials on decision making and positioning, because those things are often overlooked in War Thunder. You definitely need it in this plane. But then you have the advantage of these of the sturdiness of the plane that gives you survivability with the 2 pilots and the 2 engines, and you are allowed to make a mistake in this plane and you're not immediately punished extensively for making that one mistake. So that is a good thing to have. That's why I like this plane as a starter plane. It is not the best starter plane for a beginner, because that positioning and the decision making might not be in place yet fully for the change in gameplay that you have compared to props. But all in all, I like this plane. I had some fun in it, and you can definitely do a lot of damage in this plane when you use her right. And yeah, man, it is an interesting, fun little plane that shines in the reversals, later ends of the dives with the roll rate and the firepower and the sturdiness. It's just absolutely enjoyable when it comes to that. And it's also it's interesting as a pilot to fly planes that might not be the best out there, you know what I mean? I mean, this plane definitely has its pros and its cons, but sometimes at a certain point when you become proficient with the planes that you love, you have to start flying planes that you didn't like before. And you know, or planes that you know are subpar, and just try to make them work, because that will teach you a lot as a pilot. It will give you knowledge how to squeeze every ounce of performance out of a plane, and to use it in such a way that it becomes effective, and that you still get a lot out of a plane that in most people's hands won't cut it, you know. It's very good for your development as a pilot to do that. But yeah, interesting little plane. Let's see what we got. We got 51,000 Silver Lions and 18,000 research points, 7,400 on the vehicle research points. Second place in the team. And yeah, good little match. I'll see you in the conclusion. Hey guys, so here we are after the match. This plane is not the best. It is not the fastest. It doesn't have the greatest performance. It doesn't dive like a champion. It is not very maneuverable. So what is this plane? It is a survivable, sturdy bugger that is difficult to kill, gets a nice air start, has a good air brake, has 2 pilots, has 2 engines, very survivable, takes damage well. It has 4 guns that are devastating, and it's a little brawler, and I like that. You can also go ground pounding with it, by the way, if you want that. With that air start, you can get a good speedy start, and throw some bombs off, and you know, get the hell out of Dodge. But I like to use that air start to climb, and then to try to dominate the field with good decision making and good positioning. And when you do that in this plane, it can be very, very, very nice for you. It does survive a lot of damage, so you can make a mistake or two if you're new to jets. But it's an interesting little plane. I wouldn't recommend it as the best starter yet, but it's still an interesting plane at 7.0 and something different, that's for sure. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the review. Have a great Christmas Eve tonight, and I will see you again soon. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button, become part of this community. If you are already a subscriber, don't forget to like the video, do leave me a comment, and if you really feel like helping out today, make sure to share the video with your friends and let them know about the channel.